Welcome to Grandpa's True Scary Stories, where every story you hear was once real. Tonight's tale is a chilling, true, paranormal story titled The Stairwell That Walked at 312. If you've ever lived in an old building and heard footsteps that keep perfect time, this one's for you. Let's begin. I took the apartment because it was quiet in the way old places are quiet: thick walls, tall doors, and a stairwell that held on to the smell of wax and rain. It felt solid, permanent. The landlord, a man whose smile never quite reached his eyes, said there were 4 units, and one simple rule: leave the whole light on after midnight. He laughed it off like it was a quirky old building joke, then handed me 2 keys and that same vacant smile. For the first week, everything was normal, unless you count the unsettling feeling that the building itself was paying attention. You know that feeling. Pipes would tick like they were forming thoughts. The air in the hallway had this clean, metallic chill, almost like the inside of an elevator just before the doors close. Then, Mrs. Greer in 3B slipped a welcome note under my door. It read, "If you hear steps at night, don't interrupt. They're punctual." An odd welcome, but I figured it was just another eccentricity of the old place. On the 6th day, I came home late, exhausted from work, and completely forgot about the light. I was halfway down the stairs when the building gently reminded me. I heard a soft shoe sound on the landing just above me, definitely not mine. Then, the whole light clicked on, all by itself. I spun around and saw the wall switch slowly settle from the on position, as if an invisible hand had just let it go. The steps came down towards me, 1, 2, 3 measured treads, and then stopped. 1 floor up. "Waiting," I called out, "hello." It felt ridiculous, the kind of thing you do to be polite to an empty space, to convince yourself you're not alone, or maybe that you are. The steps resumed, passing directly overhead. I counted them. 12 steps in total before silence fell again, like someone had just clocked in for a shift. A moment later, at precisely 3:12 a.m., my phone buzzed. A building alert I didn't even know I was subscribed to flashed on the screen. Hall sensor active. Right after that, a single knock came at my door. It wasn't a person's knock, more like a wood-settling, lock-reminding touch. I took a breath and opened the door to the empty hall. A rush of cold air passed me, cool as an unlit corridor, and just as empty. The next morning, I mentioned it to the landlord. He just shrugged. "Old wiring learns habits," he said, that smile still glued to his face, his eyes looking somewhere past my shoulder. "You'll get used to it. Just don't touch the switches at night." And I did get used to it, in a way. The sound came every single night after that. At 3:12 a.m., the whole light would hum to life. Measured steps would descend from the top floor to the bottom, 12 down, 12 up, as if the stairwell were a giant clock, and someone, or something, was its hand. The building seemed to need its routine. Once, I left a package in the hall, and when I checked later, it had slid 3 inches to center itself perfectly against the wall, as if the building needed the path cleared. Another time, I forgot to lock my door, and I heard the chain lift and settle into place with patient, metallic precision. I had to know more. I bought a small digital recorder and left it on the hall table. The next morning, I played back the recording. It caught everything. The click of the light switch, the soft, rhythmic tread of the steps, and something else, hidden underneath it all, a faint 3-note chime. The kind those old hospitals used to signal night rounds. I played the recording for Mrs. Greer. She just looked up at the ceiling, as if it were a person she knew. When they converted the clinic to apartments, she said, her voice low, they kept the stairs, the bones of the place, and more than a few of its habits, a clinic. The pieces were starting to click into place, and the picture they were forming was chilling. On the 7th night, my curiosity finally got the better of me. When the first steps sounded from the top floor, I opened my door and stood right at the threshold. "Good evening," I said into the empty hall, because manners are free, and it felt like the right thing to do. The steps paused for a beat, then their cadence changed a little faster, like a colleague trying to catch up with you in the hallway. A draft of cold air moved past me, flowing right into my living room. I heard my own floorboards creak in a straight line towards the window, and then back. I said, "Everything okay?" and immediately felt ridiculous all over again. That's when I saw it. In my dresser mirror, I saw something I hadn't seen before. It wasn't reflecting my living room. It was reflecting the hallway behind me, the bulky handrail, the scuffed stair risers, the dim pendant light. The mirror showed them as if my apartment wall were made of glass and the stairwell was inside my room. A second passed, then the image snapped back, and it was my room again. My breath fogged the glass, but the fog stayed there a beat too long, as if someone else had exhaled right under my own breath. On the 10th night, I decided to test it. I left the hall light off on purpose. I just had to see what would happen. At 3:12 a.m., the steps started on schedule anyway. 1, 2, 3, and stopped right at my landing. Then, the switch snapped on. The light so bright, it made my eyes water. The steps resumed, down, then up, then quiet. My little recorder captured something new that night. A whisper threaded through the familiar chime. It wasn't a voice, exactly, more like the shape of a sentence pressed into the air. One word, time. The next day, I went to City Records. I asked to see the building's history. The clerk unrolled a set of blueprints that smelled like dust and old pencils. In the margin of a sheet dated 1948, an engineer had scrawled a note, retained staff call conduit, tied to stair pilot lamps, and a later note on a different sheet. Simply read, rounds, 3:12, night. I took a photo. I knew I would doubt my own sanity later, and I wanted to have something concrete, something that didn't rely on my memory. That night, a storm blew through and knocked out the power. The whole block was dark, but at 3:12, in perfect, pitch-black darkness, the whole light began to glow anyway. It wasn't powered light, but a soft, unearthly phosphorescence, like the dials on old instruments. The steps came, but slower this time, a little heavier, as if whatever walked them was tired, as if habit itself had weight. The soft tread reached my landing, and my doorknob turned a polite, slight degree, just enough to announce its presence. This time, I opened the door. "I won't interrupt," I said to the darkness. The air moved past my shoulder, cool as a wet penny, and a smell followed it, faint but unmistakable. Iodine and old soap. In the mirror, the hall appeared again where my wall should be. But this time, the image didn't correct itself. A figure moved in that reflected stairwell. It wasn't a monster, just the outline of work. A sweater, careful posture, a head tilted toward the floor, like someone counting their steps. Because counting is the difference between care and carelessness. The figure reached the bottom of the reflected stairs and paused, as if waiting for a response I couldn't hear. On impulse, I said softly, "It's 3:12. The chain on my door lifted and laid itself down with a soft click. The eerie glow in the hall softened. The figure in the mirror turned, and though I couldn't see a face, I understood the meaning of that turn. Recognition, relief, routine. After the storm, the pattern shifted. The steps didn't always start from the top floor. Sometimes they began on my level and moved up. Sometimes the whole light was already glowing before the switch even clicked. And once, As I was locking up to leave for work in the morning, I heard steps follow mine to the landing and stop right when I stopped, like a co-worker matching my pace. In my reflection in the window, I saw a shoulder beside mine for just a beat, the height of someone who does hard work gently. I started telling myself a story to make sense of it all. Decades ago, this stairwell was part of a clinic. A dedicated nurse or orderly walked it every single night, counting their steps, because counting was part of a routine that kept people safe. The building itself learned that rhythm when they took away the beds and the charts and the lamp at the nurse's desk. The stairs kept the one instruction they still understood: walk the route and make sure everything is as it should be. But there's a twist, one I almost missed. 2 weeks in, I overslept and found myself making coffee at 3:12 in the afternoon. The sunlight in the hall fell in a long, white stripe that looked exactly like a fluorescent light. The hall sensor pinged. The light clicked on, polite as evening. And the steps came down, soft, exactly 12, and stopped at my door. I opened it to no one, and to air that was far colder than the day deserved. The mirror showed the hall again. But this time, the figure in the reflection stood not on the stairs, but in my living room, turned toward my kitchen, like a person remembering where the meds cart used to be. "Do you need me to say it?" I asked. My voice trembled without my permission. The figure didn't move. The recorder on the table, which I'd left on, caught the 3-note chime and another whispered word, pressed into the electricity switch. A moment later, my phone buzzed. A calendar notification I had not created appeared. Rounds 312 recurring. That night, the steps started from inside my apartment. My own floorboards counted them out. 1, 2, 3. To the door, into the hall, down the stairs, up the stairs, and then back again. I looked in the mirror, and for a terrifying moment, there were 2 of me. The one holding the coffee mug, and another one passing behind him, his shoulders a little straighter, his gait a little older. Both of us just doing the work. If you ever visit this building and the whole light hums on by itself, don't flip it off. If you hear steps at 3:12, don't interrupt. And if the knob on your door turns a polite degree, open it and step aside. Say the time, say it like it matters, because in this building, it does. Some places haunt you with fear. This one haunts you with responsibility. Either way, someone walks the stairs at night. And lately, more often than not, it's me. Thanks for listening to tonight's true scary story. If this sent a shiver down your spine, please hit that like button and subscribe for more tales from the shadows. Stay safe out there.